You ever wonder if some of the sicknesses that you and your family deal with throughout the course of the year are caused by your environment? We want to dig in and find out the answers to those questions here. Let me share my screen. My name is Bob Sisk. I'm the CEO of the I Choose Fitness movement, and we deal with people who are trying to look better, feel better, and trying to find some of the obstacles that prevent that from happening. And today we're going to dig in. We're going to talk to one of the experts in the industry, and we're going to talk about toxins that are hiding in your everyday environment, how to discover them and eliminate the dangers. Your mind is going to be blown when Dr. Tori Thompson goes through some of the areas that these toxins are entering our systems, and we don't even realize it. Some things that we do day in and day out. And when we get into the causes and what's been going on, it's mind blowing what happens. It's a little bit scary too that 6 out of every 10 Americans have chronic disease. 6 out of 10, 3 out of 5 people have some type of chronic disease. 4 out of 10 have 2 or more. And that's the leading cause for death and disability in this country. Also the leading driver of why we have a $3.8 trillion annual healthcare costs. I mean, that's amazing. So let's find out a little bit more. And by looking into it, this one is alarming that the average woman uses 12 personal care products every day, and that exposes her to 168 chemicals daily. The average man uses 6 personal care products every day, and that exposes him to 85 chemical toxins every day. That is mind-blowing how much is entering our systems day in and day out. It's no wonder we have so much sickness. Well, we're going to talk to the expert, Dr. Tori Thompson. She's going to tell us about it. Here's a little bit of background on why she's so tuned in and such an expert at this. She's got her doctorate of chiropractic. She's got functional medicine training was done through the Institute of Functional Medicine. She teaches the practitioners courses on infections, molds, toxins. So she's training the trainers for the people that are dealing with the public on how do you handle this. Infections, molds, toxins. She's helped over 1,000 people regain their health through her proprietary supplement protocols. That's a lot of people that she's helped out with her protocols. And she works with everybody from stay-at-home moms to CEOs of corporations to high-level athletes. And this is what makes her the expert. We are so fortunate that we have the ability to pick her brain today. So let's welcome Dr. Tori Thompson. And here she is, Dr. Tori Thompson. Tori, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad we got the chance to do this. This is really, really important stuff. And you are the expert, which isn't that easy to get a hold of when you want to get somebody and pick their brain for a little while. So hopefully we got enough time to get through it all today.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
I think a real important part to start would be your story. I know in the past when you did the I Choose Fitness with us, you talked about being misdiagnosed at a young age and what that meant to you. And now you've got this whole passion behind the same similar situation where you're helping thousands of people get through that same type of situation you ran through. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I am extremely passionate about helping people find the root of what is going on because I struggled with my health for nearly a decade. From the time I was a young teenager, I started getting sick and very weird symptoms, a lot of insomnia, brain fog, weight gain. I couldn't use my arms at times. I lost the ability to speak at times. So I went from doctor to doctor, as you can imagine, and nobody could figure it out. And so they were more than happy to try to put me on medication, to exploratory brain surgery, all of that, but no one could give me the real reason for why I was experiencing these symptoms. And so I really decided to take matters into my own hands. And it actually came from a doctor ordering the wrong test. She ordered a completely wrong test, but what it showed was severe immunodeficiencies. And so I was in school at the time and I pulled out one of my textbooks and started diving into what could cause this and stumbled upon Lyme disease. And I grew up in California. They always said you could never get Lyme disease in Southern California. But I saw that was a possible cause, really the only thing I hadn't been tested for, asked to be tested for it, and sure enough came up positive for Lyme disease and a bunch of the other infections that go with it. So then I dove into the herbal realm of learning how to get rid of these infections with herbs, with supplements, through diet, and was able to regain my health over the course of about two-ish years, and really took that and now have run with it. Now that's what I get to do with people, is help them find what's wrong and then help them regain their health and get to an optimization level, not just a baseline.
That's really interesting too, because the medical professionals, they troubleshoot the situation, right? And when you said you don't get Lyme disease in Southern California, they don't even think about, okay, we don't have to worry about checking that because that's not on the list of possibilities. And they follow this protocol, and you kept going to different doctors, and they're all following the same protocol. So what is it about like the Western medicine that's different? Like, why is it so different to go and diagnose a symptom that you're describing there?
The Western medical model is fantastic for emergencies, for really life-threatening things, because they follow the protocols. If you are out of their realm, out of the norm, where things don't make sense, or your labs come back, quote unquote, normal, there isn't much they can do. Nobody ever addressed diet with me. Nobody ever addressed meditation, sleep, any of the things that could have just helped. That wasn't even ever brought into, my awareness. And so it's just, if you're outside of what they know, there isn't much they can do. And then, Lyme disease is tricky because it is hard to diagnose. It's hard to test. The testing's very inaccurate. And so didn't even want to run it because it's, not in California. And I will tell you, it's in all of California. I can't tell you how many people I work with in California with Lyme, but then it's getting an accurate test. And so it's kind of the double whammy of really putting your back up against the wall.
I was fortunate. I had a similar situation, but mine was discovered maybe 2 to 3 weeks later, because I came back in and I had a big bright red ring, and I was like, this is burning hot. And that's when wow, you were bit. Something was wrong. Let's do some blood work for that. But if I didn't have that, I don't know what else they kept sending me down to do all different things except test for Lyme disease.
Yep.
So, and yours lasted really, really long time. So
yeah, it got very bad.
Let's look at what you've done. Like, since that happened with you and to you, what have you done with your career? And let me share my screen and start showing you some of the slides you shared with me. So the first one was, what other types of toxins are we looking for that, can infiltrate our systems? And this was mind blowing to me when I saw this one.
Toxins are everywhere. I mean, really, if you aren't aware of toxins, they are in all of your products. You have to be very, very diligent about being toxic free. We see them in our foods, in our house cleaners, in our makeup, in our, all of our products. There are toxins that are not tested on or not regulated. And so it's truly having to be your own advocate and figure out where your toxins are coming from and then change over your products. But they are truly everywhere.
Yeah, that slide during your introduction was, women use 12 products a day, 12, all different types of products that are loaded with 168 different toxins.
Yep.
And we don't even know that's going on.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of, it's just this buildup effect, right? You get exposed to all these toxins, and that's just looking at women's beauty products. Then you have food, then you have water, then you have, the house cleaning products, then you have car exhaust. I mean, it's just this pile-up effect that people experience, and then they end up with symptoms.
I hear a lot about mold and mycotoxins. Can you explain that to us a little bit?
Yes, so mold is a huge issue for people's health. And so when you hear us talk about mold, we'll often interchange mold and mycotoxins. And a mycotoxin is actually just a toxin released from mold. And so you get mold from, most of the time, being in some sort of water damaged building. And it's estimated that about 50% of the homes in the United States have some sort of mold. 70% worldwide have mold. So that's the mass, where most people are getting it. You can also get it through food as well. But then these mycotoxins go into our body and they just wreak havoc, right? They can turn down our immune responses so they can live, without our immune system, causing them to die. They'll turn up inflammation. So then we inflammation. And a lot of people actually don't have the ability to detox mold from their body. About 28%. So about 1 in 4 people can't efficiently detox mold.
And they're in 50% of the homes out there and 70% worldwide. So it's just not a US problem, it's worldwide.
Yeah, and people always will say, oh, I live in a dry climate. and you can't rule that out, right? Mold just takes being, you know, behind a wall in a bathroom or something where there's steam, and it's not just the coastal or the more humid areas. It is truly something that can affect anyone.
Yeah, I think that's a diagram of my house now that I'm reading everything.
Yeah, right.
Every possible thing that can go wrong and create mold is happening in all of our homes right now.
Yeah, and I actually had a client not too long ago that she tested for having a lot of mycotoxins, and she was like, I don't know where this could come from. My home is 2 years old. And so we said, well, let's do some at-home testing, and you can do these little petri dishes. They're called ERMI tests, and her home came back with mold. In this brand new build, her whole bathroom, when they pulled back the walls, was full of mold. And so it's not just old homes. I mean, it is really something that can affect most homes here in America.
Where would one get one of those ERMI tests?
You can order them online. They're really inexpensive, and they're a great entry point to see if there's mold. I will say they're not the most accurate. You know, the most accurate way is going to be bringing in mold inspection companies. They can really, you know, they use thermal imaging and they're taking air samples, but the ERMI test is a fantastic way to start and see if it's an issue for you. You can put it, you know, you put them all over the place and it will see if mold grows. So it's a great starting point before bringing in a company.
So she came in and the testing showed that, you know, she had mold exposure. So then you said, okay, let's go test the home. But what brought her in, it was the symptoms, right? She was showing something was wrong. And she's like, Dr. Torrey, I need some help. Here's what I'm facing right now. And that's normally how you get in touch, where people get in touch with you about this. They're coming to you with some of these symptoms that you see on your screen there.
Absolutely. I'd say the most common ones that I see are brain fog, fatigue, sleep issues, and gut issues. That's probably the biggest across the board. But, you know, I love mold, and mycotoxin testing is just one of my standard things because it's something that a lot of people aren't even looking for and can be a huge disruptor to people's health.
And they don't know, like when they're coming in, they're saying, look, I'm dealing with some fatigue and brain fog. And, you know, they probably tried a whole bunch of other things, maybe some over-the-counter medicines, and gone to the general doctor and said, you know, why am I feeling tired? Well, change your diet, or you're not sleeping enough, or add some sleep. And inside, this mold is just growing and growing, where the mycotoxins are taking off in the system.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that unless you're specifically looking for it, it's not going to come up on blood. It's not going to come up in a stool test. And so it's really using specialized testing to identify a possible cause for people. And not everybody has it, but it is a big root cause for a lot of the people I work with.
So besides the water leaks and then the skincare products that we're using, it's also, we're picking up toxins from just everyday products throughout the house, right? That's
absolutely. Especially when you look at cleaning products, you know, that smell that people associate with cleaning products, it's pretty harsh. That's all these things listed here. We got phthalates, triclosan, perchlorate, quats, parabens, PFOAs. I mean, these are harsh chemicals that are in almost all of our conventional products. And so unless you're going out and buying, you know, products that you'll see are free of, and it'll have these listed, they likely have it in it. You know, you've got phthalates is in shampoo, conditioner. You got triclosan, which is antibacterial, antifungal. We see that in a lot of toothpaste, hand sanitizers, and hand soaps. Perchlorates in bleach. Quats is in laundry detergent. Parabens is usually with phthalates in shampoo, body wash. And then PFOAs is a lot in water and like Scotchgard and chemicals like that.
Yeah, and I know recently my son I guess he picked something up in school and he said, hey Dad, you know, your deodorant has aluminum in it and that's not good for you. And like he just learned something and shared it with me. And I'm thinking, I would like to consider myself as pretty health conscious. I try and pay attention to these things, and I turn it around. There it was, right? Like first ingredient. So you're saying that these heavy metals are everywhere. Like he showed me on my own personal deodorant that it's right there.
Oh yes, heavy metals hide really everywhere. Aluminum, the biggest one's going to be deodorant. Also in pharmaceuticals and cosmetics, we see that. One that I am seeing a lot more of right now is arsenic. And arsenic is big in rice, and then rice protein powders. We're seeing a lot of people having high amounts of arsenic. It's also in chicken because they're fed rice, and in water. And in Austin, our arsenic is through the roof in the water. Mercury, we see it in fish. The big fish in the ocean, we see it in amalgam fillings, and then uranium, which is radioactive, we're seeing in water and root vegetables. So heavy metals are a big thing to look for because they'll lodge themselves in tissues and can cause all sorts of health issues.
Yeah, it's interesting because all over the news this week in the Northeast was New York City's water is being tested for arsenic. And immediately you hear that and say, you had no idea that was a common source. It's not the first time that's ever happened, but apparently something showed up somewhere, and now they're going back and testing the water sources to see if it's from that.
Yeah, and it's in a lot of water sources. I had a client I was working with. She's a young girl, and she had arsenic through the roof. So we started digging, and she's from Southern California, and her arsenic, and when you look at there's the EWG, which puts out water reports. And when you look at the EWG's arsenic levels for where she grew up, I mean, they were, I think, like 30 or 40 times the acceptable limits. And so it's out there. It's just you have to do your own homework to see if it's something that you're being exposed to.
And these things over time can lead to some pretty serious diseases, right?
Absolutely. When you look at toxins, whether it's mycotoxins, environmental toxins, heavy metals, they're linked to many of the different diseases and pathologies, things like cancer, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, weight gain, mood disorders, depression, anxiety. Really, most of these pathologies we're seeing, you can link back to these, sources of toxins to some level or another.
And the only way to find that out is through some deep testing. This isn't, like the general doctors can't do the trial and error. You guys really get into the deep testing with all this?
Absolutely. It's really looking at tests that are going to find, these root causes. And so you can't find what you aren't looking for. And so I like to look at these tests, and I like to run a really comprehensive panel of them, and it's so that we can find anything that could be off. This organic acids test is one of my all-time favorites, and this really looks at how the engines of the body are working, right? We can see things like brain chemistry, we can see the gut, we can see inflammation levels, vitamin levels, and it gives us a really good overview of what's going on in your body and how you're being affected by different toxins.
That was profound. I just wrote it down after you said it too. I don't know if you realized how profound it was. You can't find what you're not looking for.
Yep.
That's your everyday mindset. To us, it's like, I don't know what to ask for, so I'll never ask to have it looked for, Yep. Wow, that is pretty profound. I'm gonna use that somewhere today.
Oh, good.
So what other sources of pesticides and toxins are coming from our everyday environment too?
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at pesticides, you've got glyphosate, and then you've got another one, 2,4-D, and these are two pesticides that are in, weed killers and stuff, and people know that you shouldn't, use Roundup and these harsh chemicals. What they don't know is that these chemicals are sprayed on crops. And so when you buy the non-organic, and even organic sometimes has it, they have levels of glyphosate and pesticides on them. And so some of the biggest offenders are grains. They are loaded with pesticides. We see oats, and oat milk became this huge craze, and I'm not a fan for many reasons, but one of them being when you take oats and make oat milk, if they're sprayed heavily with glyphosate, you now are drinking like glyphosate juice. And so it's one of those things that's a hard no for me, is oats and oat milk. Another one was hummus. Chickpeas and hummus have tested very high for glyphosate. And then for women, tampons, when you look at the cotton, they're sprayed with it. And then corn and soy. And so it's really finding all of these different ways that you're being exposed, and then, eliminating your exposure. But I think this is something that many people have no idea they're being exposed to heavy pesticides through their foods.
Yeah, I mean, how would you know? And is there anything you could do when you're shopping to hedge your bet?
I mean, the best thing you can do is buy organic. even at organic, I mean, you'll see there's independent studies that they're testing, and organic has pesticides on it. It's far less. But what we can't control is, was an organic crop grown right next to a non-organic crop, and then, the wind carries it. But all you can do is the best that you can. And so for me, it's eating organic and then staying away from things like, oat milk, you'll never see me touch that. Just a no for me, right? I'd rather not get my exposure from that. But it's buying organic when you can, and then removing the exposures to things that aren't such a big deal to you.
So as you start to educate people on these things, you still run into some resistance because we're creatures of habit, or we don't want to give up what we're used to, or I've used that deodorant for 10 years. I'm not letting it go, even though I'm just keep adding to the toxins in my body. So,
yeah. And this is one of my favorite quotes of all time. And it's so true when you're dealing in this world. It's, before you heal someone, ask him if he's willing to give up the things that make him sick. And that, for a lot of people, they're like, yeah, I could give it up. But it's when you make somebody, you tell someone, oh, your foods and your makeup and all of these things that you're used to are contributing to your symptoms. You really have to get real with yourself and decide, am I willing to, put my health first and give it up, or not? And that's one of those things. It's each person has to decide for themselves. But one of my favorite quotes of all time.
Yeah, it really is. And there's alternatives, which is really important for everyone to understand. There's always an alternative to what you're used to. You could just replace it with something healthier. You don't have to run a perfect life, but healthier than you're doing right now. Like after I found out about the deodorant, we went online, we started looking around, and there's a whole market of deodorants that have no chemicals in them.
Oh yeah, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what's really cool now is, because it's becoming more normal to look for chemical-free products, the cost isn't drastically different anymore. Years ago, it used to be a huge difference, but now it's just, you might not be able to run into Target or Walmart and go get the equivalent, but with a little bit of planning, the price difference isn't huge.
Yeah, that's really important too, because a lot of times people give up before they try because they think it's going to be too tall of an order.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about your lab work. How, I come to you, I'm presenting these symptoms of brain fog and fatigue, and I just know something's off, and it's been for a while. And I say, okay, Dr. Tori, what can we do? You start with the lab work first, right?
Absolutely. So I have built this panel looking for the common things that I see in my practice, so that we can identify what may be a barrier to health for a person. And so these are labs shipped directly to your home. They're urine sample done first thing in the morning, and they get sent back to the lab. Then we meet, and it's just us going over the results and coming up with a plan together. They are really, the lab testing is fantastic, very, very accurate, coming from very reputable labs. And then once we have your results, we really just sit down and come up with a plan of action together of what are we going to do to help you clear these toxins from your body and get you to achieve, an optimal health state.
We peek at what that would look like once the lab work comes in. What is it that what kind of review are we doing there?
We sit down and we go page by page by page.
Oh, wow.
And it is, I think, about 40 pages of labs. It is very extensive. And we go over really anything that's abnormal. And so the way that the labs rated is basically green, yellow, red. Anything yellow and red, we're going to talk about. We're going to, try to figure out where you got exposed. So looking at this, we can see a lot of different mycotoxins. So where is the exposure likely coming from? And then 2, what are we going to do to get rid of it? I don't want to see any yellows, any greens, but when we do an initial test, we will usually see some yellows, I don't want to see any yellows or reds. We want to see all greens. So that's going to be our our goal.
So as you're looking at these, and here's a list, the environmental toxins, you would say that's a moderate risk. They're yellow, not red.
Yeah, and so when I look at it, we don't break it up too much. Yellow and red, while red is higher, we don't want any yellows or reds, right? So what we go is, okay, your perchlorate's really high, so we need to change your laundry detergent. We need to, make sure there's no perchlorate exposure, and then we start working on it. We do that with all the toxins, figure out where the exposure is likely coming from, come up with a solution of a replacement, and then from there, come up with a plan of what exactly we need to work on detoxing out of the body.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So you could look at the chlorates and say that's coming from 2 or 3 different sources. One most common would be laundry detergent. Let's start there.
Yep. And we'll go through a list of, and then every once in a while, someone will be like, nope, I don't use that. So then we have to start, working our way down the possible suspects. But for the most part, they all have, 2 or 3 main sources that we're getting exposed to. And then what's cool is we can, with testing, we can retest down the road and watch the numbers move. So you can really see your progress as you're watching numbers move.
And as you're going through this, you're finding what could be the root cause of their problems. That maybe they had 2 years of these headaches that come and go and fatigue every afternoon. They start falling asleep at their desk. And all of a sudden you're saying, okay, we've dug down. We found out what we believe is the cause. You start to remove these things, they feel better, right?
Yeah. And one of the cool things is when you look at them, sometimes the symptoms directly correlate. And so like perchlorate can affect the thyroid. And so then it's really cool when someone's like, oh, I've had a sluggish thyroid for years and no one's been able to figure it out. And so you can usually correlate symptoms to the toxins, to the mycotoxins. And so what this does is it really goes in, and I like to say this is root, looking for the root cause, figuring out what the root of the symptoms is. And then it gives us the exact plan, the pieces of the puzzle to help you optimize and heal your body.
Which is a really important statement too, that the body's going to heal itself if you remove the toxins that are causing.
That is key, right? The body, you remove what doesn't belong and the body does amazing things.
Wow. So somebody's coming in and they say, okay, my expectation, I've had these headaches for a long time, and you go through the test, you find some possible causes, you remove those toxins from their environment, and that headache that they were dealing with goes away pain-free, but you didn't even need the medications. Because in your story, you said the first thing, and same with me, first thing the doctors do is give you some antibiotics, some other medicines if the antibiotics don't work, or some medicines for the antibiotics that if they're going to cause gut problems. And before you know it, you got a whole little pile of medicines that didn't get rid of your headaches.
Yep. And I always tell people, your body didn't just decide to do something, right? Your body doesn't say, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to give you a headache. It's right. Your body is always working for you, not against you. So it's identifying what could be causing that headache, or what could be causing that sinus issues, or whatever it is, and then removing that, and then the body resolves it. And so, sinus issues, you're seeing people breathe better. Fatigue, you're seeing them more energized. They're coming in with depression. You're seeing their mood improve. We're seeing brain fog, but then we end up seeing, clearer thinking. Insomnia, then we see people sleeping better and getting actual restful sleep. And so it's really like we talk about figuring out what causes these things, and then just, detoxing and allowing the body to get back to a state of balance, homeostasis.
That's incredible. It's such a simple plan, and yet you feel like that should be done for everybody every year, or like how often would you say this should be done?
I will tell you, personally, I run this panel on myself every single year. Every year with like clockwork. I make sure, because I can do a fantastic job in my environment, right? When I'm home, I can eat organic. I can make sure there's no cleaning products. I can do all the right things at home, but you can't control the world that you're exposed to when you go out. And so I run this on myself to make sure that if anything did pop up, I'm able to address it, detox it, and clear it out. And so that's kind of, as people, once they've gotten rid of their big toxin load, yearly is really all you need to do.
And then you have peace of mind. Like, I'm just looking at it, even after this conversation, all the things that I can go look at, and then I can start to make some tweaks and changes, and you start to feel better. But if you're presenting symptoms like this and they go away, you're like, I know why they came in the first place. Like, sometimes your headache goes away, oh, well, it's gone. But then it comes back, and you're like, I got to find out why this keeps happening.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the reset process.
So it is it's kind of a two-part thing. So it's going to be this at-home test. It's going to look at all those tests that we talked about, the organic acids, the mycotoxins, the environmental toxins, and the heavy metals, shipped directly to you, and then you ship it back to the lab. And in the meantime, because from the time that you order the lab to the time that the results come back is about a month, what we've done is we've built a 30-day restore plan. And so what it's going to do is get you started on a diet diet recommendations with meal plans, and start showing you where toxins could be hiding in your house, giving you replacements. And so it's basically going to allow you to hit the ground running and get ready for when your lab results are back. You've already dialed in on food and you've started to, open your eyes to possible toxins. Then we're going to sit down when the labs come back in, and we're going to go over them in extreme detail, showing you all of the things that popped up that are, out of the range, mycotoxins, environmental toxins, metals, and really give you a personalized plan of action to allow you to reclaim your health and, optimize your health to a level that I usually know it's possible, but sometimes people are like, oh, I'll never be that, energized. And then lo and behold, then they are usually more energized than they ever thought. So it's just getting you back to baseline and then optimizing from there.
It's got to be so rewarding for you because you know what it's like to suffer for a long period of time, not know why you're suffering. And you do this with people and they just start removing these toxins from their life. They are energized. They're telling you about, how much energy they haven't had in years. They're pain-free or whatever other symptoms just have gone away. And now the confidence to know that I can keep them at bay because I now know what I should be looking for.
Oh, it's so rewarding. And I will say, like, just sitting on calls and hearing people, what they've overcome is like, it's just amazing. And it's so rewarding and definitely makes me, keeping wanting to spread the word, because I want everyone to truly live a very, very healthy life. And nobody should be experiencing symptoms like brain fog, fatigue, insomnia, depression. And so we can start educating people and spreading the word. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, I think, for you and me.
And as you started explaining, I was always picturing it was just going to be a little bit of lab work and it tells you your results. Like when I go to my doctor, I get blood work during my annual physical, and then we go through that lab report. But you have a whole bundle of information, not just the lab work. The lab work is the starting point.
Yes, the lab work is the starting point, and it just gives us identifies the root causes. So then we also have, a group call in that 30-day interim. We'll do a group call with me and you can hop on and ask questions. This is questions about diet, products, symptoms, whatever you have, you can bring it to this call and really, make sure that your questions are answered.
In a lot of cases, the mom is kind of the CEO or chairman of the board of the household, always taking care of the big picture, but looking at all the little things along the way. So she might turn around and take a look at this and say, I've got to get into the kids' bathroom and see what they've been using, what's on their products, and then come back to you and say, how is this for kids? Or is this the same? Because sometimes we don't even recognize some of the things in the ingredients. They come to you with those ingredients and you say, yeah, here's what that means. Here's what that is. You should get rid of it, or that's fine. Keep it the way it is.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I'm there for. Yep.
That's uncommon in the medical profession,
I do know that. I will say, I know that. And it always shocks people when they start working with me, how available I am for them. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to help people. And so they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you emailed me back, or you texted me back, or whatever it is. So aside from that, we'll also do our one-on-one session where we're going to go over your labs. And again, this is very, very detailed, very fun, really identifying what could be causing any of your symptoms, and coming up with a plan of action together. Then we have our 30-day reset detox, and this is a little course that we have. It's not little, it's actually quite a comprehensive course. It's going to dive into diet, toxins, mold, detox tools. I mean, it really allows you to hit the ground running, broken up into weekly modules, and it's just packed with fantastic information.
Now, I know we could talk probably another hour on supplements and your supplement protocols, but you help people with identifying what supplements are good to be added to them. Is
Oh,
that based
yes.
on their results or just,
Yeah.
general health? Both.
Yeah, it's definitely based on results. And there's no, no two bodies are the same. You can even look at labs and they can be similar, but it's finding supplements that are going to work for that person's body. And that's where when we review the lab, we'll definitely dive into what supplements are going to be the best for that person.
Nice.
We've got our detox powder, and this is in our 30-day detox. You're going to get 2 detox powders. And so for one of your meals, you're going to, do this detox powder. I like to do it in a smoothie. And it's packed with supplements actually in it that support detox of the liver. And so what it's doing is prepping your body for a bigger detox when the labs come back. So this is really, the meat and potatoes of that detox is getting your body prepped and primed for what we're going to do once your labs are back.
That's awesome.
And then we have an app. This app is fantastic. It is meal plans that come with shopping lists. And then you can track your symptoms. If you have Oura Ring or Fitbit, you can link it to it. So then I can track your Oura Ring, and you can see how the sleep and how your data is being affected by food and all of that. And so it's basically a fantastic way for me to be able to see what's going on with you and for you to stay in touch with me. You can message me and all of that through it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I guess with the app right there, you're also seeing the progress as somebody's getting better, their sleep patterns get better, they're going into the deeper sleep. You can see all that through this app and the meal plans. That are they reporting what they're doing different with their meals?
Yep. And what's really cool, when you break out symptoms day by day, we tend to forget how bad we were, right? We tend to forget how sick we were when you're feeling better, because it's, kind of out of sight, out of mind. And when you can see the progress and like, oh my gosh, I was only sleeping, 2 hours a night, or had to take a nap in the day because I was so fatigued, or whatever the symptoms are. When you're able to look back and see where you started, it's really cool to see how your symptoms have progressed. And this app does that very well, of tracking it and showing us really the data of how you've progressed.
Yeah, that's got to increase people's confidence level as well, as they're seeing the progress as it's happening. And then, the toxins, are we storing the toxins throughout our body and like in fat cells and things like that where it's hard to get to them? And
oh, yeah. So that's what happens is, because we're exposed to so many toxins, your liver only has the capacity to do so much detox, right? So what it'll do is your body will go, okay, liver's full. We're going to take these toxins and we're going to store them in your fat cells. And when your liver has the capacity, we'll come back to you, right? But because we keep getting exposed to toxins, we never have the ability to come back and get those toxins out. And so this is one of those things where when people are like, I can't lose weight no matter what I do, usually it's a toxin issue. And it's because if their body lets go of that fat cell, it has to deal with the toxin. And so it's, these stored toxins are buried in our body, and it's really getting to figuring out that they're there and then detoxing them out in a safe manner so that you can actually get your body to a place where it can, 1, get to a healthy weight, and 2, not have a high toxin load.
Yeah, that should get people excited right there too, knowing that this stuff has been stored, and who knows how long. Is there a time frame that we store toxins in bad cells, or they're just there?
They're there. And especially for people that have this really big toxic buildup, and there's people that genetically don't detox as well. I mean, you can have toxins stored for years and years. I mean, there's really no limit to that. So it's definitely something that is worth diving into. And then you'll also see in this, we have all of our household and personal care recommendations. That's the biggest thing. We see a lot of people that say, get rid of toxins, but they don't give you any solutions, right? And so what I've done is built a list of what to look out for, what to clear out of your house, out of your products, and what you can replace it with. And these are common things that luckily now are in a lot of stores, so you don't have to, search the internet high and low to find products. I've done the heavy lifting for you, found fantastic products that work and are non-toxic.
Beautiful. Yeah, that alone is probably what everybody needs too. Okay, put me on a plan like this is. It's easy to understand. It's simple the way you have it all laid out. But when I go off on my own, I'll be overwhelmed. Like, where do I start? To have a plan like this, it's beautiful. Because if you're overwhelmed, you do nothing. You just freeze.
Absolutely.
I got there's too many things to change.
Yeah, and people get into panic and then they're like, nope, I can't do it. And so it's giving people tangible steps and really removing the belief that you have to be perfect. I didn't become, this organic person overnight. And so it's giving people the steps. What's the biggest thing you should get rid of first? Then what do you do next? Then what do you do next? And giving people tangible steps that are not overwhelming, that are doable. I don't expect you to go dump out everything in your house overnight, right. And, give them a plan that actually works.
Yeah, that's great. And then, I guess a disclaimer, you share all this or recommend they share it with their own personal doctors too, right? I mean, as with anything, you're making changes, let everybody involved with your healthcare know.
Absolutely.
All right, so we want to get started with it. Easiest way is to contact you or go to the website.
Yep, so you can send us an email, just reset@drtorithompson.com, or you can click on the link and this will take you directly to the page where you'll see the products all there. Also reach out if you have questions and you want to know more about the products, reach out and we're happy to answer them.
Let me see if I could find that page so they know they're in the right place here. So that URL will take them here. They just fill out their information. It's $15.97 USD. Drop in their credit card and they're ready to go.
Yep, absolutely. And then, we'll basically, it takes us a few days. We'll get everything, the detox powder shipped to you, the lab kit shipped to you, and you'll, hit the ground running from then on out.
So I'll have like a timeline and the schedule of, all right, I'm starting today, a couple days later, I'll get my lab. And then you said I'm right in that 30-day program.
Yep, you get instant access to the 30-day program. And so you'll get instant access and you'll start in week 1. So you'll dive into diet, you'll dive into, recipes, you'll get access to the app. And so it's, really hitting the ground running from that standpoint. Few days on the labs and the detox powders themselves. But usually within a few days, you have everything.
Wow, that was great. Very informative too, Dr. Tori. Is there?
Oh, thank you.
Anything else that I forgot to ask you about that people should know when it comes to starting something like this?
I don't think so. I think it's just, be an advocate for your own health, right? That's the biggest thing. That's what I want to teach people is to be an advocate for your own health. And to do that, it's looking for things that could be causing your issues. So you don't have to take somebody saying your labs are normal at face value. Let's look somewhere that hasn't been explored yet. So if you need anything, reach out to us. We're happy to answer questions, point you in any direction. And I look forward to meeting you guys.
That was awesome. And I'll end with this. You can't find what you're not looking for.
That is it. That's the quote of the day.
Quote of the day. So if that doesn't summarize it, I don't know what does.
Exactly.
Dr. I appreciate your time, and you are the expert in this. And there should be more people speaking the speak that you speak and sharing this and helping people and doing what you do.
I hope. I'm trying to get more people on board, and soon it's growing. So soon we'll have more of us. But I love what I do, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And we'll talk again soon. I'm sure there's lots of other conversations that we want to have with you as we dig deeper.
Absolutely.